The law is one example of a type of rule that we ought to follow, even when it does not promote happiness. Compliance with the law is necessary for business, but it's insufficient to ensure ethical conduct. Just because it's legal does not mean it's ethical. Other rules are derived from various institutions in which we participate, such as a corporate code of conduct, or from various social roles that we fill, such as codes of conduct that govern our professional roles. Corporate or professional codes of conduct or codes of ethics are often principle-based and state principles that the firm or profession believes should guide the actions of its employees or members. So far, we have mentioned legal rules, organizational rules, role-based rules, and professional rules. These rules, as part of a social agreement or social contract, function to organize and ease relations between individuals. No group could function if members were free at all times to decide for themselves what to do and how to act. Now, this is a great advantage of principle-based ethics. It's especially an advantage in the business world. If we know that a corporation or an individual, for example, our chief financial officer, is always going to follow a set of principles, and we know or have a good idea of what those are, then business dealings become easier to predict, and easier to conduct. Kant's categorical imperative says that unless you can suppose that everyone in similar circumstances could do what you're proposing to do, then you should not do it. This is why principle-based ethics makes such a good foundation for a social contract, such as in the law or in an organization or a professional's code of conduct. Codes of ethics or codes of conduct have been developed for a variety of purposes by many different enterprises. Here are some sample ones to consider. This slide shows some of the principles of Japanese business called kyosei. Kyosei comes from two Japanese characters, working together, kyo, and life, sai, to mean cooperative living or symbiosis. Kyosei stems from Confucian beliefs as well as traditional principles of business written in the Sochu Kyaku. According to the Sochu Kyaku, trade must be beneficial for both parties. We should not make money by making our trade partner worse off, in other words. If we do not share the profit with our trade partner, we may lose business opportunities in the long run. The profits will grow as long as we share them with our trading partner. Otherwise, they're going to decline. What is called profit is that which accrues through right conduct. Therefore, the merchant trying to make a quick profit will get less return than the merchant trying to make a profit in the long run. The Sochu Kyaku also talks about treating other people, including trade partners from other countries, the same, even though they might have a different language or culture. For example, it says, we cannot justify cheating and looking down upon foreign trade partners by focusing on these differences and disregarding the commonalities. When we have an opportunity to meet a gentleman of virtue from another country, it says, we should respect him. We should try to learn from him what to do and what not to do according to his country's manners and customs, so as to practice them ourselves. It also encourages us to rescue those in trouble and not just seek relief for ourselves. Fourth, it says that no matter how grave a risk a storm at sea might pose, it is to be feared less than the risk that human greed proposes. Finally, it asks us to consider these kinds of principles and consult with them in our daily business affairs. This slide goes over another list of principles, those from the Code of the West. Now, these come from a book written by James Owen called Cowboy Ethics, What Wall Street Can Learn from the Code of the West. But having lived out west myself, this Code of the West does represent the principles of right conduct emphasized by the cowboy. These principles include things like live each day with courage, take pride in your work, always finish what you start, do what has to be done, be tough but fair, and when you make a promise, keep it, ride for the brand, in other words, you represent the organization that you belong to, talk less and say more, remember that some things are not for sale, and know where to draw the line. A very common form of principle-based ethics is that stems from healthcare. Most healthcare organizations use these four principles. Respect for autonomy. For example, assume that rational agents are involved in making informed and voluntary decisions. In a healthcare decision, our respect for autonomy of the patient would mean that the patient has the capacity to act intentionally with understanding and without controlling influences that would mitigate against a free and voluntary act or choice on the patient's part. This principle is the basis of informed consent in physician-patient transactions. The principle of non-malfeasance requires that we not intentionally create a needless harm or injury to the patient, either through acts of commission or omission. It's clear that medical mistakes occur. However, this principle articulates a fundamental commitment on the part of healthcare professionals to protect their patients from harm. The principle of beneficence obligates healthcare professionals to be benevolent in acts and benefit other people's interest. The ordinary meaning of this principle is the duty of healthcare providers to be of benefit to the patient, as well as to take positive steps to prevent and to remove harm from the patient. These goals are applied both to individual patients as well as to the good of society as a whole. For example, the good health of a particular patient is an appropriate goal of medicine, and the prevention of disease through research and the employment of vaccines is the same goal expanded to the population at large. The fourth major principle of medical ethics is the principle of justice. Unjust distributions of resources and discrimination must be avoided. Justice in healthcare is usually defined as a form of fairness. The question of distributive justice also seems to hinge on the fact that some goods and services are in short supply and there's not enough to go around. Thus, some fair means of allocating scarce resources must be determined. It's generally held that persons who are equals should qualify for equal treatment. And this is borne out in the application of Medicare, which is available to all persons over the age of 65. Our society uses a variety of factors as criteria for distributive justice. Benefits and resources may be distributed by any of the following: to each person an equal share, to each person according to need, to each person according to effort, to each person according to contribution, to each person according to merit, and to each person according to free market exchange.